right, and here we go, back with another episode of the Uncivilized Art podcast. I'm your host, Bumi Hazan, but I go by Bandit Haze in the online space. And I am joined once again by my man, my brother from another mother. Or shall I say that? I mean, I guess since I've never actually met you, I shouldn't assume gender. So I'm assuming.
You assume correctly.
Cool. But yeah, my man, Sweet Bundy, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just hanging in there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I big appreciate you coming through as always, man. Like we've been chatting these podcasts for a little bit. You and Celeste are coming through on a reg. So yeah, really appreciate you guys doing that. Had a little break and we'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, with this episode, we're gonna be talking mostly about what it's like to be a geek, a gamer, in our later years in life, or maybe not necessarily just later years, but just when I guess it's really just down to when you can't dedicate as much time to your geekiness as you'd like. You know what I mean? Because
hmm
when you're actually, we'll get into that, but I think people know what I'm talking about right now. When you want to be a geek 24/7, but you just can't. You just can't. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get into the main topic of today's podcast, yeah, what's been happening? I mean, so it's been, I guess, yeah, I think it's been about a couple of months at least since we spoke last. So yeah, what's been happening? What you been doing? What you been watching? What you been playing? If you've been watching, playing, or doing anything, because like I said, we got things to do as well. So what's going on in Sweet Bundy's life over the last couple of months?
Well, I've been watching The Boys season 4.
Okay, yeah.
Um and I know you're not caught up, so I'll make sure not to say any spoilers. But my
Not
my
yet, not
thoughts
yet.
on it without spoiling it is so far it's a little. I mean, don't get me wrong, The Boys have always been edgy. It's always been shocking and grotesque, but um this season, I don't know. It's getting, I'm not gonna let it stop me from watching because it's clearly telling a story, but some of the
Mm-hmm.
stories, some of the plots, I'm like, I'm not really interested in this.
Mm,
And some of the stuff, like the humor of it, it's like more so pulling from the comics than anything else.
mm-hmm.
That type of humor. Uh, and it also gives me vibes of like, how can I say? Uh, I say for the past 5, 10 years or so, it's been more of a radical change as far as like, all right, we used to show um women naked all the time. Now it's the men's turn. So now you're gonna see dicks, you're gonna see ass, and it's all gonna be guys, and you just gotta take it. And it's like, okay, that's fair. But I mean, almost every damn episode has been something like that, you know. Um, in the first 3 episodes, you see some extreme stuff, or not. I shouldn't say extreme. Well, one of them was extreme, yeah. But it's getting kind of tiring. But I'm
Mm.
still gonna watch the season. I'm still liking the story. I love the actors. Um, yeah. So that's what I think about that. I also surprisingly been put on to an anime
Mm-hmm.
called Go Go Loser Rangers. And speaking of The Boys, pretty much the idea, the concept of it is Power Rangers meets The Boys,
All right.
but as an anime. So that's the best way I could put it. Season 1 is out and done. So now I got to go and read the manga because I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna wait a year and a half for season 2. It's pretty good so far. And other than that, I've also been oh yeah, just finished Alan Wake 2. Boy,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel I've been feeling like either I just play the wrong games or I'm just getting old
Okay.
because
Maybe
Alan
both.
Wake 1 I liked. Alan Wake 2, it's like I like the story. I liked everything about it except the gameplay. The gameplay was horrible in my opinion. Not the most, it's not terrible to the point where I'm like, "Oh, it's unplayable." It's just frustrating. Most of the time, I felt frustrated. I felt bored because there's so much padding. The combat system is terrible. Late reactions where you're going against enemies that have fast reactions. Shit
Mm,
that just doesn't make sense. Like you're trying to reload and your character is doing this slow ass animation, even with an upgrade to the reload speed specifically. These motherfuckers are still reloading the gun slow. So yeah, but other than that, I'm not going to tell somebody, hey, don't play it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to say, no, you should play it. I say you could watch somebody play it and you feel like you want to play it, sure, go for it.
mm.
Because they have some interesting stuff, some must see stuff, even. And finally, I've also discovered this AI, right? That and you saw it
Oh yeah,
where
but for the music.
yeah. So I used to write poetry when I was like a teenager and then a young adult. I used to write poetry a lot. Um, and I just never made music because I cannot sing, I cannot rap. As far as like actually sitting there and rapping with a flow and there, it's more than just writing it. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
perform it.
That's whole
I'm
skill.
not a performer. Exactly. Um, so when I found the website, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, hold on, let me see what I can do. So I wrote something and it came out good, and then next thing you know, I'm inspired. So now I'm writing songs again and everything, and I've been putting out the music. In short, the website, um, you just write a song. I mean, yeah, you can have the AI write the song, but I don't suggest that because what's the point? You
Yeah.
may as well just look up random songs. But you could write the song. You could tell the AI how you want the voice to sound, how you want the instrumental to sound, what instruments to include, what key to include if you want, and the AI will do its best with whatever you give it and go off the lyrics that you provide.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I was listening to a few of the songs you put out. And no, that sounds really cool. So I mean,
Thank you.
the words you wrote those words yourself.
Oh
So the
yeah,
words that you
absolutely.
hear, those are your okay. So that I didn't know. That I didn't know.
Oh,
But that's really cool. Then that's really cool. But
thank
yeah,
you.
like you're saying, I feel like if you're going to do something, I mean, because AI can be, well, we talked about AI a while ago, and,
Hmm.
AI can be a lot of things. It could be amazing, it could be scary, it could be a lot of different things. But if it's going to
Absolutely.
be here, then, you still need to be human, right? And part of that is express yourself in some way. And AI can help get your creativity out there. But yeah, it has to be your creativity. If you just be like, oh yeah, write a song, then yeah, say what's the point? It's just there's nothing of you in there. Well, you know that you wrote that, and all you then do was okay. Then this is how I want it to sound. I want the voice, da, 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 and then it just compiles that for you. So that's really cool. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
listened to a few of the was it Sweet Buzz Radio? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. It's some cool stuff out there, man. Some cool stuff.
I
So yeah,
appreciate it.
definitely something to I don't know. You might be onto something. You might be onto something.
The
But
crazy thing is that you could go ahead and be so diverse with your the genres. So I went from doing like the whole R&B song to doing some alternative rock and alternative indie to doing some even some music that you could say is like from Persona 5. I somehow got the AI to do a song that sounds just almost just like one of those songs. So it's been crazy. It's been really crazy. I
mm,
loved it.
what's the legality on that sort of thing, though? Because I mean, I'd assume, of course, if you're writing it, the words are fine. But in terms of the music, like if the AI's coming up with the music, because AI tends to, shall we say, draw from other sources. So, like, is there like do you know if there's like a legal issue if you wanted to put that out to sell? Would you have to like clear some rights or stuff like that, or is it just all yours, or how's that work?
As far as I know, as long as you have a subscription, and I don't know how the AI or the website will be able to tell, but as long as you have a subscription, you're allowed to go ahead and commercialize it, right?
Okay.
But as far as any legal issues, I heard rumors that there's a lawsuit, but that's because you got people. Some people have been doing this for fun, right? They'll go
Hmm.
ahead and take a song that we know, like Real Slim Shady, right? And then they'll go ahead and bring it into the AI and then have the AI do like an old version of it. So
Okay, yeah,
then that person releases that song on YouTube and they'll say Real Slim Shady 1967 or whatever, right?
yeah.
So it'll trick some people into thinking, oh, this is us, this is the original song, and that's the legal issue because now that YouTuber is making money off of that, right?
Mm.
Because you guys, there was, I'm not gonna say which channel or whatever, but there's this one guy, he's using the same thing, but he's actually telling people, hey, yeah, if you want a song done, just go ahead and subscribe to my Patreon. And I think that's fucked up.
Okay, so
Because it,
he's taking money and it's going to AI to.
yeah,
All
I
right,
think
yeah,
that's
that's
fucked
that's a
up.
bit, yeah, that's a bit messed up. Like, come on, dude, come
Yeah,
on.
because you're not doing anything but sending prompts and that's it. You
Mm,
know, I'm not gonna do some Patreon shit. I'm just putting out songs and that's it. Like I'm writing the fucking songs myself and then having the AI. That's when I do the prompts. I'm having AI go ahead and make this song into an actual song.
mm.
But the people who are,
Okay, are we back?
yep,
Are we live? Are we back again, dude? I don't know
yep,
what happened there. Like, it just
yeah, that's the
apparently,
first.
I don't know, just signed out of. I don't know. So, that was a mad thing. That was a mad thing. Like, I just signed out of something. It was telling actually signed back into to my account. Um, so yeah, I don't. I'm sorry for that technical issue. I have no idea what happened. But yeah, I think we back live now. I think we back
Yeah,
live.
still recording.
So still recording, and
Okay.
yeah, hopefully no further issues. But let's see, where were we? I think you were saying about the
People
songs,
fucking
writing
it
the
up for
songs,
everyone.
and yeah, people miss. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, uh, those individuals that are recreating those songs and then putting them out there, they're fucking it up for everyone because they're not labeling um the songs as AI. And yeah, you could go ahead and say, well, people could go ahead and use their common sense, but you have to realize some people are out of that generation, and then some people are just so young, too young to realize, oh, like younger people, for example, um, I saw a trend recently where uh they listened to one of Eminem's old songs, right? From back when I was a kid. For example, like Kill You.
Oh
So
right, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and they've been reacting to that, being all mind blown. And of course, some people are over exaggerating
yeah, yeah,
for,
yeah.
for the views, but there are some people who are genuinely like out of the loop. They didn't know about that side of Eminem and that type of music by Eminem. So that generational gap, there's always going to be people who are tricked by things that you think is common sense. And you could be like, oh, it's their fault, whatever. Either way, you're fucking it up. You're fucking it up for people. The guy who made that Patreon and hey, I'm gonna go ahead and make songs for you. Just go ahead and message me. Subscribe to my Patreon. He's fucking it up for people. Unless he's making original music. If he's making original music, fine.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
if he's just
they're
going to the
doing
AI,
it.
just yeah, it's a bit lame, bit
Yeah.
lame. But yeah, so some of those reactions you just mentioned real quick, there was like, I mean, reactions in general, like for a long time, I've always had that whole thing about, people just over exaggerating stuff, right? And it's kind of a thing
Hmm.
in the reaction community because we do, because I've done reaction videos and they could be fun to do, but you try to just be genuine in your action, and the truth is that you're not going to be blown away by everything, especially when you know I mean I'm a when you're a mature person, you see a lot of stuff, right? So I'm not blown away by the same things other people might be blown away. But yeah, you get those comments in a video, on your video sometimes where people be like, "Oh, so you don't why don't you like this song or what?" And it's like, no, I liked it. It's just heard it before, or not. You don't know heard it before. You know what I mean? It's not new. Like
Yeah,
but yeah, then you get the people who I know you see some channels where it's like every single time they're completely blown away by it. And he's like, bro, come on, man.
exactly.
Come on. Like, you can't be that shocked and surprised by every, like, dude, you've been doing the same reaction for come on. Come on. But yeah, it's what people want to see. It's what people want to see. They want to see those over the top crazy reactions. So, people just fake it a lot of times. And, you know. But yeah, what was it? You're saying that you, yeah, about the boys. Yeah, I haven't started on the boys yet. I think they're on episode 5 or 6 at the moment or something. So I think what I want to do is wait till the whole thing's out and then maybe starting it there. Maybe not right away, but after the whole thing's kind of ready, I'll start there. But I have heard some. I've been good with terms of avoiding spoilers, but I've heard a
Mhm.
few inklings and rumblings of things that people are saying, and yeah, it does definitely seem like a polarizing show between the ones that love what they're doing and other people who accuse her of going woke. That's the term. It's going
Yeah,
woke. And
yeah.
I mean the way I see it, the boys have always kind of been socially aware, so I guess that's nothing to me. I feel like that's nothing new, but maybe other people just didn't really notice that before. But oh well, oh well. But yeah, I'm still looking forward to eventually getting into it. But yeah, I'll wait. I want to wait till this whole thing's out. Plus, there's some other shows I'm trying to get through as well. So maybe sometime after that, I might try and get to the boys. But I did see that the next season, season 6, is going to be the last season ever.
No,
They did
season
announce
5.
that. Oh wait, sorry. Where we are? So sorry, this is season 4 that's come out, isn't it?
Hmm.
Sorry, my bad. I'm confused and stuff. So yeah, season 4 just come out. Season 5 is going to be the last one. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's been announced. And Alan Wake as well. Like I haven't played it, but yeah, again, like you hear these rumblings and the whole thing about it's gone woke, Alan Woke, and I don't know,
Oh,
man. Like,
that was bullshit. That was just I heard when I had bought the game when it was on
mm,
sale, and then afterwards I started hearing people talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, saying the same shit. But honestly, that was bullshit. They're just
mm,
mad because don't get me wrong. If if you're playing a game and then the sequel you have to play as a different character, I'll be annoyed too. And to be fair, they did the same thing with Metal Gear Solid.
mm,
I remember I mean, back then I wasn't really on a computer or anything, but afterwards I got to see, people I found out that people were complaining about the fact that you had to play as a different character for a while, right? In
yeah,
Metal Gear Solid 2. So I get it. But the people who are really outraged, they, honestly, they let you play as Alan Wake again. And then at one point, they let you go ahead and switch and, choose who you want to
mm,
play as freely, up
yeah.
until you have to play as this character or that character.
I mean,
So,
oh, sorry. Okay.
no, no, no.
Yeah, I was
I just didn't get it. I didn't get the reaction of it. Honestly, it just came off as people didn't want to play as a black woman.
well, that's it. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why, like, you can't take Twitter too seriously. Like you see stuff on Twitter or Insta sometimes, Twitter especially, and you just be like, I'm just gonna ignore that. That's not. You can't let these things because a lot. I mean, a lot of the stuff I don't even follow. It's just like sometimes people might retweet something or whatever, or you just might see it in a reply somewhere. But yeah, you can't really take this stuff too seriously because people just complain about such nonsense, and it's like with the other podcasts we're talking about, sort of games going woke, and it just seems like anytime there's a change or like especially if it is a woman or a non-white man, and it's like, oh, it's going woke, and it's like, dude, shut the
Mhm.
fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
it's like here's the thing real quick. It's just and I mean, there's loads of games out there where you play as different characters from the first game. Like, they're not the first to do it. They won't be the last. And so what if it's if it's this character. You know, it's like it literally means next to nothing. You know, like look, I haven't played the game, so maybe I shouldn't say too much about this game specifically, but just in general, you know what I mean. Just in general, when it happens, it's like it just feels like people. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who just say it just because it gets replies and they don't necessarily mean it themselves. You know, they're just saying it to be saying it. I'm sure there's a lot of that. But
Yeah.
then I don't know, man. It's some people are just exhausting. I just can't pay them no mind. It's like, you know what? Ignore, ignore. I mean, maybe I haven't played the first Alan Wake game, so it's in my Steam wish list. I'll wait till it's like, I don't know, 50p or something. I might buy it then, but might be a while before I get to Alan Wake 2, if ever. But yeah, as for myself, I mean, well, I guess the biggest thing is that I was away for 3 weeks in Saudi Arabia, um, and why the podcast took a little bit of a break, so I could go sun it up in Saudi Arabia. And
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it was a really cool trip. I went on a pilgrimage. Actually, it's called a Hajj, if you know what that is. So for those who don't, I'm just part of the Islamic faith, to do a pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia, where you go to Medina and Mecca, and there's a sort of few rites that you perform while doing it. And it's something that you do once. Well, you only have to do it once in your lifetime if you are able to do it. Like, if you're not able to, if you can't afford it, or you're sick or things like that, then it's not required. But if you are able to do it, then you should do it at least once in your lifetime. So that's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And although I wasn't planning on doing it this year, the opportunity came up. So yeah, I went along with it. But it was amazing just being away I mean, Saudi Arabia is it's an incredible place. Like, it really is. I mean, I, it's interesting because, like, from what we know of Saudi Arabia, like what we hear about it, like, it's so different to that, you know. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's truth to certain things. I don't want to sing all their praises, because I'm sure there's plenty of shady things going on that you just don't see when you're a tourist, when you're a visitor, right? I'm sure there's plenty of things I'm not going to see. But in
Yeah.
terms of, like, just being there and seeing, at least partly how things operate, like, for example, as you're walking out, like, it's really hot there. Like, that's one of the first things you notice. It's really hot. You step out of the airport, and you immediately, it's just hot. It's heat. But they do things like where they just give you bottles of water on it. Like, they have people who just give you out bottles of water for free. And so as you're walking down the street, there'll be somebody just handing out bottles of water for people, or fruit juice, things like that. And they have, like, various, like, fans along the streets, where they're just, like, blowing out air and sprinkling water from the fans to keep people cool. And it's really, I mean, well, I say it's a clean city. Like, Medina and Mecca are really clean cities, but I think, in fairness, the parts that I was in was a really clean part, because certainly especially in Mecca, like, where the Kaaba is, where the central mosque is, super
Mhm.
clean, super clean. Like, that whole surrounding area, super clean, right? And you'll see, like, the street cleaners and people out just keeping everything clean, just, like, sweeping and everything else, right? You get a bit further out, past, like, they have this thing called, like, the first ring, which is like a road that goes around in a big circle.
Mhm.
And so once you get, I think, past that, maybe towards where the second ring is, also another road that goes around the big circle. Once you get to about that kind of area, yeah, you could tell, like, it's maybe not so much. I mean, you could definitely tell where most of the money is being spent, right? When you're there.
Yeah. But is there a
Uh,
reason for that?
I don't know the specific reason. I'm gonna guess that where the mosque is where, is going to be, like, the I guess the most important part of the city, because that's where people are praying, and the
Mhm.
direction that people face, when you're praying is to the Kaaba. So, like, that whole surrounding area, they spend a lot of money keeping it clean, um, tidy, operated, and stuff like that. Um, they have things like, I tell you one of the things that stood out to me, though, especially when it comes to, like the road sweepers, is that the road sweepers there would beg for money. And that was weird for me, because you don't see that here. Like, we have like homeless people who might ask for money, and crackheads who might ask for money, but you generally don't see people with jobs asking for money, right? So that was a
Yeah.
bit weird for me. But people would give them money, and I looked it up as to why that is. Like, why do road sweepers beg for money in Saudi Arabia? And apparently, it's because I mean, from what I can tell, and by the way, I may be misinformed, so if I am, correct me. But from what I can tell, from what I read into it, they're not employed by the government. At least a lot of them aren't employed by the government. So they're employed by private companies, and apparently a lot of these private companies don't pay them a lot, and not only that, they don't pay them on time. So they're just kind of there often with like not much, and then so people might take pity on them and give them money, and so you'll see them out just kind of sweeping, and they don't always have like proper gear. Like they just got like flip flops on. They have like the road sweeper out overalls on, but they got like don't have like proper shoes, just like flip flops, and then like one of those like those broomsticks that look like a witch's broom.
Yeah.
They have something like that they'd be sweeping with. So like, yeah, it's kind of mad when it's like that, because like the good things about the city, and about Mecca and Medina, like the good things about it are really, really good. And then you read something like that and it's like, how did that get missed? Like how did that get missed? But I mean, yeah, overall though, it was just a really, really good experience, just being there for 3 weeks, and being up and down, going up and down, walking around, seeing the sights, eating the food. There's some great food out there. But yeah, that was me for 3 weeks in June in Saudi Arabia. Landed in Medina, and we're in Medina for I think 3 days, and then from Medina we went to Mecca, where we spent most of the time. But from Mecca, we went to Mount Arafat, which for the religious folk out there is the mountain where, if you know the story of Abraham and his son, and when God was saying to sacrifice his son, and he went to the mountain to do it, but then the goat appeared. That story. That's Mount Arafat. So we went there, and we went to a place called Muzdalifa, which I can't remember what the significance of Muzdalifa is, but part of the Hajj rites is that you sleep out in the street. Well, not in the street, but you sleep out in the open in Muzdalifa. So yeah, just out in the open. But in fairness, they give you like a sleeping bag, so it weren't too bad. But yeah, you literally out in the open, just staring up at the sky, at the night sky, just like sleeping in the open. And then from there, you go back to the Mina camp, where you're there for a little while, and then back to Mecca. Well, I mean, it's all in Mecca really, but I say like main part of Mecca where you go back to. But yeah, the whole trip was just really cool and really amazing, and just like, I mean, I like to travel just anyway, so going around getting coffee was a cool thing for me, and yeah, ended up getting a little bit sick while I was out there. Got a cold, which I think I'm mostly over now, but you might hear a cough here and two, so yeah, you've been warned. But aside from that, yeah, I've just been trying. I managed to watch an anime called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
Okay.
which I've been watching for a while. So I previously watched seasons 1, 2, and 3. I just watched season 4 recently, so I've got 5 and 6 to go. I started watching Cobra Kai season 5 again just in the last few days. I want to try and finish that before season 6 is out, so getting myself ready for that. And with games, yeah, but I still play some of the cheaper games that I was talking about the other time. Been playing Fallout, the very first Fallout game. Managed to spend a few hours in Fallout. That's a mad game actually, because like I played a little bit of Fallout 4 like years ago. I never completed it, but I played maybe some hours of Fallout 4. So that was my introduction to Fallout, was Fallout 4, right? And going to Fallout, like the very first Fallout game, it's not first person, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. It's pretty much all mouse controls, like points and clicking. So yeah, it kind of threw me off a little bit, but it's kind of like, it's kind of cool still though. Like I'm kind of getting into it, trying to figure things out and figure out what to do. I had to go find a rope So I managed to find a rope in was it Sandy Shades or Shady Sands? I managed to find a rope. But it's kind of weird though, like in terms of like how you find a rope, because like you speak to people, but nobody's telling you they got a rope or where to get a rope from. So I thought but they're telling you about these monsters that are attacking their village. So I thought, okay, if I fight the monsters, they'll give me a rope. That's what I'm thinking. Um, but no, like you fight the monsters, they don't give you nothing. They don't give you nothing. Let's just say thank you. Actually, that's not fair. That's not true. They do give you something, but only if you collect the tail or something like that, and then you get like an antidote for the poison. But to get a rope, you have to speak to somebody, and then you have to click on where it says barter. And then when I clicked that, I was like, oh, he's got the rope, and I have to exchange something for it. So yeah, it's not really. I mean, this is like 1997. I guess they didn't explain things back in games back then, right? So I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this. So, but yes, it's been interesting getting into Fallout and just kind of working my way around that. But I'm still in very early stages of that game, and I've been playing Far Cry 3, a little bit of that as well, a little bit of Grand Theft Auto 4, and a little bit of Half-Life as well, old school Half-Life, the very first one. Played a little
Okay.
bit of that as well. Yeah, I mean, it sounds right now. I know it sounds like, oh, you must have got bare time to play games. Well, it sounds like that, but well, we're going to talk about all this in a moment. But how I manage my time. But yeah, that's been me over the last few months. Mostly Saudi Arabia, but yeah, managed to squeeze in a few geekiness here and there. And yeah, so I can reach get into the main topic then. How you feeling?
What?
I said I reckon we should get into the main topic. How you feeling?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right, awesome. So yeah, because I want to talk about this, about geekiness and making time for this, because like when I talk to people about gaming and stuff like that, when it probably sounds like I spend a lot of time playing games, and I guess in fairness, I probably spend more time playing games than say most people, right? Um, but I don't game nowhere near as much as I'd like to be. I'd like to be able to, and certainly nowhere near as much as I used to, right? So I guess it's probably going to sound like a little bit of like a first world problem, like, oh, you don't get the game 20 hours, 50 hours a week anymore, like boo hoo, like I get it, right? But it is an interesting thing for me when it comes to like managing your time, because like I work, and you work, and we have jobs, and we're this podcast that we do, maybe one day, but not quite paying the bills just yet, right? But maybe one day, we'll see. But in the meantime, we got to work, right? So we got to figure out, okay, so I got to work full time. In that, I then outside of that, I've got to figure out, gotta keep fit, gotta to take care of my health. I've got to take care of things around the house. I've got to take care of my plants. I ain't got no damn kids, but I take care of my plants. I gotta make sure there's food and cleaning, and all these things that you just gotta do as an adult, right? And then, of course, there's other things that somebody needs you to do something. Because let's be real. There's always someone that needs you to do something. I mean, you don't really get much time when it comes to that sort of thing. Like somebody always wants you to do something. Oh, can you help me this? Can you help me that? Can you help me this? Can you help me that? And especially when you're the only family member with a car, it's like, yeah, you're gonna get called a lot, right? You're gonna get called a lot. So it's like, all right, cool. I'm not gonna turn people down, because that's just not who I am. But when it comes down
Yeah.
to it, it's like, okay, you finally get your time to play games, and there's so much that you want to play, so much games that have been coming out already that you hear about that sound great, that look amazing. And I'm just looking at it, like Elden Ring, for example. Elden Ring looks like exactly the type of game that I would love. Like, it looks exactly like the type of game that if I was 12 years old or something like that, I would be all over that. But I look at it now and think it's too long, it's too hard. I'm not gonna get much time for it. Certainly not gonna get enough time to get good enough. If I'm gonna play a game like Elden Ring, that's my life. You know, I'm not playing anything else forever. It's like that because it's a time to get good at it. It's time to get through the content of it. It's you know, and the limited time that I have to play games, it's like it just doesn't happen, you know, for a game like that, you know. And a lot of games these days, even if they're not necessarily hard, a lot of games these days tend to be like, you know, 40 hours plus and, you know, things like that. So it's difficult for me to be able to be like, you know what, I'm going to buy that. Because, you know, brand new games, you know, that's like £50 or $60, I think, in America, right? But is that right? $60 for a brand new game?
I mean, for in dollars, it's actually like 70 now.
70. Okay, so they've gone up.
Yeah.
They've gone
Yeah.
up. So, but $70 for a brand new game, about £50 over here,
hmm
and that's just the base game, right? That's not even including any like extra
Exactly.
bits or DLC or things like that. So you already got this. You know, it's a big money commitment, right? It's not a small amount of money. And
Yeah.
then how much can you justify spending that on something that you're not going to get much time for? You know, you may not ever complete it. You know, like how many games you buy you don't complete, and it just becomes this thing where it's like I want to do it, but it's so hard to justify. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, you know, in terms of like being creative and things that I want to do creatively. And even that's like, you know, how much time does this take for something that, you know, doesn't make money? And I never want to be that guy who's like, oh, I'm only doing this for the, because that's not me either. But I got bills to pay, right? So
Yeah.
I gotta manage my time. And there's other things I want to do. You know, I want to travel more. I want to have more experiences. I want to do this. So if I have to pay for that, I have to devote more time to other things. So it becomes this thing as I guess as you go through life, like how much time can you devote to your hobbies, your geekiness, your video games, your movies, when you know you got a job, you know, you got to work, you know, you got to take care of your house, you got to take care of your family, maybe got to take some stuff for some of you out there, you might have to take care of your kids, your pets, you know, and things like that. There's so much things you have as an adult that you have to take on, and then that small amount of time you finally get, if you're lucky, um and then you finally get to sit down, but of course somebody wants something, so but yeah. So that's a lot about what I've been thinking about lately, because I talk to people when I'm at my work, where, you know, I talk about games. So I like talking about games. I listen to the podcast. So yeah, I'm sure when I'm talking about it, it sounds like I spend so much time, but and even, you know, I'm sure if you've listened to this, people who listen to this podcast, you might have heard me say plenty of times I haven't played that yet, or I haven't played that yet. But cause that's the reality. Like I try to keep up with stuff, but yeah, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. So what's your experience with that sort of thing, and how do you manage it, or do you manage it? You know, when it comes to making time for your games, making time for your movies, making time for your hobbies, and still managing to take care of all your responsibilities and have a life as well.
Honestly, it just depends on how much I'm being worked. Because as far as commitments to people, I don't have to really rely on that too much. I mean, deal with that too much,
Mm-hmm.
because um, most of my family is out of state. So I don't have to worry about anybody bothering me too much, asking me for this or that. I've been blessed in that regard.
Ah, cool, cool,
um,
cool.
but I used to go ahead and pretty much just be like, a company man. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No matter what they ask me, if you need me to be there, I'll be there and all that. But um during those times, I'll just be so tired. I'll still play the game, but there would be nights where I'll come home, I'll have something to eat, I'll play for a good hour, and then I'm tired, or I gotta get ready to get up in the morning. And
Mm,
those times were just draining, like, because you get to those moments where you feel like, yeah, my life is mostly work.
mm,
And if I was making a shit ton of money, then it's worth it. Yeah, fine. But when you're just making money just to go ahead and like live, it's like, fuck, what is this? So it
Mm.
could be draining on the mental for sure. But um, I started to just like realize, all right, I'm working my ass off for this company and I'm not getting no extra pay. It's not pushing me up the ladder or anything. So what's the point? I may as if this second person is working not as hard as me, but we're still getting the same results, then what the fuck is the point really?
Mm.
I say, you know, um if you're getting something from it, right? Then sure. My father would be quick to argue and say, hey, somebody's always watching you. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because there's been a long ass time where I'm working my ass off and ain't got nothing from it. Other than the fact that I could say, oh yeah, I worked that hard. Um, you know, I say you have to really just realize what's important to you,
Mm.
you know, and what can I use this for? You need breaks.
Yeah.
We already saw, not to get too off topic, but we already saw what happens with too much work and no play. All right. Jack Nicholson showed us best. So it would drive you crazy, you
Mm.
know, when you're doing nothing but work or mostly work, it will drive you insane. You need these little distractions, you need this entertainment because it takes you away for a moment unless you just go ahead and decompress. You need
Mm.
that. You need that refresher. So I make time for it. And fortunately for me, it wasn't too difficult. I just realized I don't have to go ahead and give this company most of my life. I don't have to go ahead and be at work just because they so and so called out. Can you come in? No, I can't.
Mm.
What are you gonna do? Fire me for not filling in, for working on a day that I'm off? No. So yeah, I just stopped caring so much about this job. I just been working to work, and that's it. I do what I'm supposed to do. I get paid. And because I get paid, I get to pay my bills. And because my bills are paid, my house is still running, and I enjoy my day as much as I can.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually. Like, one of the things I've kind of believed for a while actually when it comes to getting a job or working is that we're often kind of conditioned to apply for the jobs that pay the most, right? Um,
Mhm.
but the jobs that pay the most, what we don't realize is that the reason why they pay the most is because they're going to demand the most. Like they might have a job listed as 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, 100,000 a year or something like that, whatever, right? And you might think, oh, it's just Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, cool. But the reality is that that job is not Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like if they're paying you that much, they're going to be demanding a lot from you, and you might have contracted hours of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but trust you're going to be working a lot more than that, you know. Because they're paying you a lot, they're gonna want a lot. Nobody gets paid to do nothing, and this is what a
Mhm.
lot of times we don't fully realize. So, like when it comes to choosing a job and getting a job, like you said, like you kind of have to decide like what do you really care about. Like you can get a job that maybe doesn't pay so much, but it affords you a lot more time to yourself. Affords you a lot more, um just like not having to be stressed out. you know
Yeah.
and yeah, as long as your bills are paid and as long as you can still have some money left over to enjoy yourself a little bit, then you're doing okay. You're doing
Yep.
okay. um but of course, like I guess depending on the individual, that what their circumstances are. Like, if you've got like 20 kids to feed or something, like,
Yeah.
you might be struggling. You might still be struggling. Um, but yeah, no, I think that is a good point though. Just like understanding what is it that you want out of life, and I think we have to make the decision at some point. What is really important to you? And I know for myself, like the most important thing for me in terms of you know what I put out into the world has to be my creativity, and I've been doing something creative for as far as I can remember, like probably since like I was like a single digit numbers, you know what I mean? So, like for a long time. And it's always kind of been in a sense of, it's something that I enjoy doing. And there's times where I would say that I tries to make a living out of it, which didn't really go so well. But in all honesty, I kind of felt like as much as it pissed me off at the time, the more I think about it, and the more especially when I see people who did make a living out of it and how their lives are, it's like kind of like I feel like I dodged a bullet as well. So do you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where you look back and like, you know what, maybe it's best that didn't happen for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, like but I do like to do creative things, but as much as I'm like, okay, I'll do it, it doesn't make money, but that's fine. I'll do it because I enjoy doing it. There's always that question of, well, how much time can you spend doing something that doesn't make money? Because like it does that thing. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now, because one of the things that I've been doing for the past few years is making these videos for YouTube where I talk about movies, right? And I'll take the piss, I'll make fun of it, and I haven't make jokes, and I try to, that's been my creative outlet for, yeah, about 3 or 4 years now. I think a few years. I just kind of put these videos out, and they, some of them do okay, and they mostly trying to just kind of sit there, but some of them have done pretty well, and that's cool. I've been just doing it and putting them out as I can. But yeah, more and more lately, I've been like, okay, you know what? I've been doing this for a while, but there's still so much things that I want to do in my life. It's still
Yeah.
like traveling, like I talked about. I do want to travel more, and if I'm going to travel more, I need to be able to pay for that. So okay, so if I'm going to pay for my travels and things like that, I'm in the process of buying a house, and other things like that. So it's like, okay, so I need to make sure I've got some money for this. So I need to be working, and that's like, oh well, if I'm working more, then I've got less time for this. So this is where I think it gets difficult, because I know, like you were saying before, about you need to take care of yourself, and you need to do things that that make you happy. And for me, that is being creative. For me, that is playing video games. For me, that is watching movies and that kind of thing, and just kind of geeky things like that. That's always been a big part of who I am. But yeah, when it's like, okay, well, now I've got all these things I've got to pay for and be ready for, and make sure it's like, okay, well, now I'm taking more and more time away from this. And I'm kind of fortunate in the sense that the work that I do is super flexible. So I can work more if I need to, or work less if I need to, and that kind of thing. But of course, that comes with its costs as well. Like, if I'm working less, I earn less. If I'm working more, then I have less time. So I earn more, but I have less time. So it's always this shifting balance that I feel like I'm constantly trying to figure out, whether I need to be working more this week or working less this week, and how much can I do this and neglect that, or come back to this and come back to that. And it just always feels like there's like a million different things you're trying to just kind of do, and maybe it's best to just let something go. But then if I do that, it's like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what's the point of everything else that I do if I let go of the things that I really want to, you know what I mean? It could be like
Yeah.
that. So finding that balance is sometimes super easy, but often can be super hard, where it's like, I know how I would like it to be, right? But the reality of it is just not there. So yeah, man, it's been like, I mean, I guess especially because I've been away as well. It's been a lot on my mind, especially because I've been away for a few weeks, so you haven't been doing much just then anyway. But of course, while you're away and while you're not doing stuff, it is kind of like it weighs on your mind a bit more. Like, do I want to come back to that? And if I do want to come back to it, how do I come back to it? How do I continue doing it? How do I do that and not feel like I'm just neglecting other parts of things that I want to do? Like
Yeah.
like traveling, or I went bungee jumping a couple of months ago. I want to go skydiving at some point, things like that. Like, but these things cost money, which means I need to put in the work to get that money, right? And if I'm going to do that, less time for video games, less time for creativity, it's all, where's this balance lying? Where's this balance lying? And like you said, maybe it is a case of just figuring out what really is important to me, and kind of deciding from there. Was like, what exactly is it that you want to do? Is it time for a massive change in my life? is that where I'm at, or do I just like let go of these thoughts and let go? I don't know what the right answer is. you know, but yeah, man, it's that's a lot.
I mean,
Mm,
I get it because a- at least aspects of it, right? Where,
mm,
for example, like when it comes to streaming on Twitch, at one point I used to pull in. Don't get me wrong, I never pulled in big numbers or anything, never.
mm,
Um, and I think the best I've done was subscriptions, but that was because a couple of my viewers, they were regulars and they were like really pushing for it, and that was years ago.
mm,
So I had like um 30 subscribers at one point, which is great. It's great. I made some money off of Twitch. Nothing where you could say is a job, but money that was like, oh
yeah.
wow, okay. But I really thought about it. I was like, I had a lot going on um around that time. Uh I had a death of a very, very close family member. So that really just,
Mm,
it didn't matter how many fucking subscriptions you got. It's like, man, fuck that. So, but my point is, um, when I came back to it and I started getting the regular of it, and this is off and on, off and on. One of the things is everybody is doing pretty much the same thing, right? Um, and people who are on the outside of it, I always see, and you probably seen the comments too. Oh, I could do that. Anyone could do that when it comes to streamers, when it comes to YouTubers, stuff like that. Not everyone, because you could go on Twitch, you go on Kick, you go on YouTube Live right now, and there's somebody streaming and it's one viewer.
mm.
And chances are they are that one viewer. you
Watch
know,
themselves from another screen.
exactly. And it's because there's so many people trying to do the same thing.
Mm,
There's a lot of work that goes into bringing in an audience, and sometimes it's easier for one person than the other. And there are so many factors that go into it. You can't even say the stereotype of like, oh well, if you're a woman and you got big tits all out, blah blah. I guarantee you, you look on Twitch, you will see women with their tits, all out pretty much as they can be, and they have low ass viewers because again, there's more stuff that goes into it.
mm,
My point about all this is when you're striving for like a goal, some people do it for money, some people do it for popularity, some people do it for a mixture of the two. Um, and you don't see that the results or anything. You're trying. It could get like a little demotivational where
mm,
you're just like, What's the fucking point?" Um, so I've been in that boat where I'm like looking at things and I'm like, man, am I wasting my time? I could be doing something else that actually makes me feel good instead of striving for this one thing to happen that hasn't been really happening. Um, so I don't know. For me, mentally now, like I still stream, but I don't care to stream. Like I could go ahead and go away for another month or two and or even several if I wanted to, and that'll be fine because it's not like something that brings me joy. It's something that if I'm streaming and people don't come through, no big deal. I end the stream or whatever, it's fine.
mm,
Um, but I've been trying to do things that I like, that I enjoy, something that makes me feel good. Um, so I've been doing other things. Like I've been doing the fucking songwriting thing. I love that shit. I love putting that shit out. And then, um, even seeing like even don't get me wrong, it's not pulling in big numbers or anything, but seeing that like counter go up, it's like, oh shit. That little spark of joy That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for little sparks of joy. That's perfectly
Mm.
said.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think as much as we might like to not admit it or pretend otherwise, yeah, if you're doing any kind of streams or videos or whatever and you get a few likes than you might normally get, yeah, of course it's a good feeling, you know what I mean? We all kind of like that. I think the key is to try not to get addicted to that feeling, you know, because it's not always going to be there. You know, it's not unfortunately it's just not always going to be there. But to your point about sort of the big titty streamers, I feel like a lot of people, I mean, when people say things like, oh, you just got to be a girl with big tits and you could be famous on Twitch or whatever, I feel like people like say that mainly because either out of either they say that out of an ignorance or an insecurity. I feel like it's one of those, like,
Hmm.
and I mean, I guess I could understand it in terms of an ignorance where, because you assume like a lot of times it's, you know, these places are a lot of dudes, right? So of course we like tits. Like, of course, if you've got big tits, we're gonna come look. You know, it's like, so you kind of assume if you've got big tits, you can be famous. But the reality is that I mean, this might have changed slightly over the last few years, and because I'm not paying that much attention to Twitch, so I guess I might not know. But the last time I saw this, like the biggest streamers on Twitch were mostly dudes. You know, like the most like popular streamers on Twitch were mostly dudes, and there's maybe like one or two women in like the top 10 or whatever it is. I can't remember. So maybe that's changed slightly over the last few years. I don't know, but I'd imagine it's probably still. I'm going to guess, and you could correct me if I'm wrong if everybody knows, but I'm going to guess that the top streamers, like the top five, are still probably mostly dudes. Because
Hmm.
the thing about the titty streamers is like you say, like it's a dime a dozen. You know, like so
Yeah,
many people are doing it. So many people are doing it, and
exactly.
there's only so many horny 13-year-olds that they're kind of spread out over, you know, over, I don't know what the number of horny 13-year-olds are in the world, but whatever that number is, they're spread out over however many titty streamers there are. So like you got a pool of people like this big that they're all trying to share. There's maybe this many streamers trying to get on that market, but that's who your main audience is, a bunch of horny 13-year-olds. Like, you know, because if all you have to offer is big tits, you know, let's keep it real. Like, you're not going to, you might attract an audience, but you're not necessarily going to keep an audience, you know. So like, yeah, like if you're trying to be on these platforms, like it's going to be more than just having big tits to actually, you know, do well. I think you're going to need, you know, something that people can hold on to. But because they can't grab your titties, so they need something else to hold on to, right? To keep coming back, because yeah, tits are great. I ain't saying that. Tits are great. We all love tits. We all
Of
love
course.
tits. Big tits, small tits. We all love tits. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you need more than that to hold an audience. Unless you really want that 13-year-old horny boy market, then hey, have at it. But yeah, I think I mean, Twitch has just been a mad place lately, though, isn't it? Like, I've been hearing some things a little bit off topic. I think I might be getting it right now, but I've just been hearing some mad things about Twitch lately. About not Twitch, sorry. Is it Twitch? What was that Doctor Disrespect dude? Because I think he was on
Oh
Twitch and went to
God.
YouTube. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's it, bro. Listen, like I
Yeah.
said, there's certain things where you look back on your life and think, you know what, yeah, maybe it's best it didn't work out for me. Maybe it's best, you know, like, but anyway, I don't know much about that guy. I've not watched enough of him to know what he's like, so I won't comment too much on that. But if what they're saying is true, then
I mean, you know,
mm-mm.
it's a whole clusterfuck. It's a
Mm.
clusterfuck. Um, he did some fucking. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. Honestly, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, and it's like you have to look at somebody and say, "All right, how 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 much older do you have to be to realize, hmm, I shouldn't do that."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you have a wife, and you have. I don't think he was like a. Well, no, he was a relatively big streamer back then. Even back then, he was a big streamer. I don't know. Honestly, it's been a topic that like, and even in private conversations, when somebody brings it up, like, oh yeah, you saw such as, I'm like, I don't even want to talk about it, man. I don't even want to talk about it because I wasn't a big fan, but I enjoyed watching his clips. Just like there are certain streamers I don't watch their streams or whatever, but I watch their clips and I'm like, all right, I like that clip, or yeah, this guy's funny. There's been like Kai Sanat. I'm a supporter of him and everything. As far as like, I love everything that he's doing. I love all the success that
Mm.
he's getting. He's a young black kid, you know, one of the biggest streamers, if not the biggest streamer on Twitch right now. And it's like it feels good to see, a kid like that really, making it. He
Mm.
doesn't have to go out here and struggle and do a 9 to 5, none of that. He has all the success, all this money, and all these people behind him, rallying behind him. And there's been a couple of times where he got in trouble, but it hasn't been anything that is like, all right, it's over now. And all it takes is one bad fuck up to ruin everything. So I'm rooting for him to continue doing good and continue being smart and everything.
Mm.
But I don't really watch his streams, right? But same with Speed. This other kid who was like,
Oh
he's
yeah, yeah.
controversial in his own lane. Uh, you know, people don't like him because of his demeanor. It's extreme. It's in your face. Uh, Wild child. But he has a big heart. It honestly, a lot of these people, if you just dig a little bit, you can see the good out of them. Because of course, when it comes to the entertainer side, you're gonna have a different persona most of the time. With him,
Mm.
his persona, he's like, listen, my fans enjoy this side. They enjoy me being loud. They enjoy me being crazy. They enjoy me saying wild shit or whatever. Um, but he's done charity work. He's helped people. He has a big heart. He's
Mm.
young. Uh, so again, same that I said for Kai Sinat. I say the same for Speed. I just want to see them be successful and make the right decisions as much as possible.
Mm.
Because of course you can't be flawless. You're gonna
Yeah.
make mistakes.
Yeah.
You're gonna say shit that's stupid, whatever. Um, but I hope nobody does anything that's like, on the level of fucking Dr. Disrespect. Because, it's like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. There's
you
just certain
fucked it
things you
all up.
just don't do, and it's like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Like I said, I mean, well, I ain't no big time internet, whatever, but occasionally I've had somebody DM me about something, and it's kind of, and it's these things where it's like, what, I don't know you. But first of all, I
Yeah.
don't know you. You might be saying something nice like, "Oh, I enjoy your stream," or "enjoy your video," or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool, thanks. But yeah, you just don't know who that is. It could be a child, it could be an adult, it could be a hot chick, it could be you don't know. Like,
Yeah.
and you see some of these people who say things like, "Oh, I thought they were of age." I thought the thing is, like, it doesn't matter though, like whether whether the person is an adult or whatever, whether they're. It's just like there's certain things I feel like you just don't do it. Just you don't need to be conversing with somebody intimately in your DMs that you don't know, like
Yeah.
regardless of how old they are, like you just don't do it.
Yeah.
There's no part that sounds like a good idea, just don't do it. If they give you a compliment, say thank you, leave it alone. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, leave it alone. Dead it. Just dead the conversations. Don't you move. You don't need to be asking them. Oh, how old are you? And you don't need to be doing that. You don't need to be. Oh, send me this. You don't need to be. No, just thank you, leave it alone. That's all. That's all. I liked your stream. I liked your video. I like this. Thank you. Leave it alone. That's it.
Yeah.
End of. End of. There's no part of getting involved with a conversation with somebody you don't know randomly on the internet in the DMs or the whispers or whatever it was. Like, nah. Just. But people are yeah, people do some dumb things, and I guess like like when you look at the celebrity, especially like people who get famous really young, I mean, the history of that has been a history of people making dumb decisions, not usually not pedophilic dumb decisions, right? But it is a history of people making dumb decisions, and there's an element of, oh, I could understand that as if I was that age, and I wasn't necessarily the smartest person then, and I ain't the smartest person now. You still make mistakes, and certain things, especially if you didn't have much guidance and things like that, and da da da. I get it. Like sometimes you're just gonna make the wrong, and like you said before, nobody's perfect. We're all gonna do some stupid things, or sometimes you're gonna do something really stupid. But some things are just like, there's no part of that that's a good idea. Like, no, there's just no part of that that's a good idea. But like I said, I don't know the dude, so
Yeah.
But yeah, just to kind of bring it back to our topic a little bit though, like when it comes to these things, because like I know for myself, like over the years, whether it's with video games or poetry, or whether it's just doing something creative. Like I said, there has been times where I've tried to make it into something. There has been times where I've been like, okay, I want to try and make money out of this. Like, there has been times like that. And for me, I've just found like YouTube, or not just YouTube, but just, I guess, you only use YouTube as an example, but it probably applies to like Twitch and other things, and creative and expressive media as well. Like, it's almost as easy as it is difficult, right? Because we talked about earlier about like the reaction channels, and how a lot of times they just over exaggerate things because that's what people want to see. It doesn't take much to realize what people want to see. If they, like you said about Speed, people want to see that, so that's what he does. They want to see this extreme behavior, so that's what he does. And so it doesn't really take a whole lot to fit. Once you put a few videos out, and some of them are done, a few numbers outside your normal kind of viewership, it doesn't take much to figure out, okay, people want to see this, do more of that. And every video you watch on YouTube that tells you how to make it on YouTube says pretty much the same thing. Once you see a video that does better than your other videos, and especially once you start to see the comments and things like that, do more of that. So like, it's not hard to get your numbers up on these platforms in terms of what to actually do. But what is hard, and where I think a lot of the difficulty lies, especially if you are somebody who is more creative minded rather than business minded. Because if you're business minded, none of this is going to matter. If you're more business minded, then it's like, yeah, of course, I just do what people want to say and just keep doing that, and it doesn't matter. But if you're more creative minded, the difficulty is always going to be like, okay, I know this is what people want, and it's not bad for me to do it, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to. Like, like at that core, I don't want to. Like, and when you force yourself into these positions where it's like I said, where I was trying to make money out of certain things, I'm just doing these things because it's what people want to see, and it's like it's so draining mentally. It's so draining. And I guess what I'm realizing, I guess to be fair, it's something I knew a while, but maybe I'm realizing it more so than ever, that there's just no such thing as an easy choice. Like, whichever path you go down, you're going to have some difficulty, right? And it's just it's pretty much just choose your difficulty, choose your hardship, choose your struggle. Do you want to have money and struggle mentally, right? Or do you want to be okay mentally but struggle financially? Like,
Yeah.
that's what it kind of comes down to. Or at least that's what it feels like, what your choices are. And I guess now in more recent times, like I say about the whole time and things like that, it's like, did I make the right choice? Should I have maybe put more into making money out of like YouTube and stuff like that, and to maybe look at it as a job. And because we all have jobs and we don't always like our jobs, maybe look at it as a job and think of it that way. And had I done that, had I maybe made more money out of these things, if by now would I be in a better position where I can just say, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it alone and just live my life. I made £1 billion now. I could, you know what I mean? Like, who knows where you'd be? Um, and of course, there's no point really thinking about it because choice has been made and it's all been done, and you can't change the past. But it is a thing, like, you made a choice back there. This is where you are now. It felt like the right choice at the moment. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. What else could have happened? Had I done that, where else could it be? What other problems could I have faced? So you never really know. That's one of the reasons why there's no point really thinking about this. Um, but it is kind of that thing of, I know I could have done that. Yeah, I know I could have done it. And I know that there's a possibility that it could have made some money. I could have been maybe more famous, and if I had stuck with certain things. I didn't, and now I'm like, well, I got to work so I can go to Amsterdam. I got to work more hours now, and and I still want to do these creative things, and I got to figure out the time for that, and I got to figure out how I'm going to fit this in, and then so but yeah, there's no easy choice, there's no such thing as an easy choice.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, like I say, your mental health is, don't get me wrong, money. People don't want to say it, but money is more important, right?
Mm.
Because you
Well,
need it.
more important
Yeah.
than your
Now,
mental health.
yeah. Now,
Okay,
the reason
okay.
why I say that is
Explain.
because
Explain.
the reason why I say that is because if I go out and I'm like, man, I really need a break. I really need a break. Um, and I sacrifice some money that I need for a bill, uh, the lights are gonna be off, or the
Mm,
water is gonna be off, or the gas is gonna be off. All these things, right? So I say money is the most important only because we're so dependent on it.
mm,
We need it. We need it for food. We need it for this, that, and the third, just to live, just to function, and especially depending on where you live. Like, I'm in New York, and New York is one of the most expensive places over here, right?
mm,
So I need it. Shit, just to have a roof over my head, it'll cost this and that and that and this, right? Um, so that's why, unfortunately, it's more important. People could go ahead and argue and say, well, if you don't have the mental capacity to go ahead and work your job and blah blah blah. Yeah, but again, it comes down to square one. You need a job, right? And you need
mm,
a job to get money. So unfortunately, because of the circumstances, money is more important. Um, and that's not really our fault. That's just the fault of how things are, like the rules that are set in place. Um, I feel like it goes into a bigger issue, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I feel like that opens up the floodgates.
mm,
But there's a big issue, at least, and I'm quite sure not just in America, but um, I can only talk about where I'm at.
sure.
Mental health is a huge issue because there's no priority over it. There's some support for it and everything. But let's say, and this is controversial to say, but honestly, you could go ahead and ask around. I've witnessed it, I experienced it firsthand. Um, like when somebody's talking about being suicidal or something like that, right? The number one thing that people love to throw in their face, oh, call the hotline. Call the hotline. You have help. You have support. People care about you. Da da da.
Mm-hmm.
That fucking hotline is hit or miss. You have YouTubers that are sponsored by BetterHelp, and
Yeah.
that shit is not even hit or miss, more miss than hit. There's all these things where it's just like you think you're doing enough support, but you're not. You're not. And now we try drugging up some people, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Um, there's not enough focus on it to really say that mental health is a priority, is the priority over money. Money is the priority because With money, you can actually go ahead and get the therapist that you need. With money, you could go ahead and get the medication that you need. So unfortunately, by circumstance, money's more important.
Hmm. No, I think I understand what you're trying to say. I think I understand that.
Yeah.
You ultimately you need money to get by and live and do stuff, and whatever you want to do is going to involve some amount of money, and that's the reality
Yeah.
of it. Um, what's interesting is that you said, like, with money you could get the therapy that you need, but perhaps if you took care of your mental health, you wouldn't need the therapist. So, maybe you
I
won't need
mean,
so
it,
much
it
money.
goes hand in hand
Yeah.
because if you don't have enough money, your mental could suffer. Like if I don't have enough money, like say it's
Mm,
hot, right? It's hot, we're in the summer, and I just can't pay the electric bill. Now I'm in the fucking heat. Now I'm in this house. It's fucking hot as hell. And then when it's night, I got light candles and shit. Like this is Crooklyn. Like I'm suffering. So then my mental starts to go down. Now it's starting
mm,
to dwindle. Now I'm like, and oh, I need to pay this electric bill before I get something to eat. So now I'm
mm.
starving. Now I'm hungry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying. Like,
yeah, no, I get that, because that's,
yeah,
yeah. I guess if your mental issues or are brought on by the stress of struggling financially, um, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, that's definitely a thing. There's a lot of people out there who, well, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're
yeah.
constantly wondering, like, can you afford this? Can you afford that? Are you going to be able to eat this week? Or are you going to have to miss out on this? And and there's a stress, and it definitely has a strain on people's mental health on that. If you're talking
Hmm.
about, say, stress is brought on by finances, but finances isn't the only thing that brings on stress, and it's not the only thing that could impact somebody's mental health. I mean, it's a big thing, especially when you ain't got money, right?
Yeah.
It's a big thing for us poor folk. But you know, even outside of that, it's like there's so many other things that could damage your mental health or lessen your mental health, so to speak. Um, that I don't know if money even matters in some of these cases. Like, I mean, some of these, I guess, like I said before, some of this just sound like first world problems. Like, when you look at the grand scheme of things in the world, where you got people around the world where, they're more worried about, are they going to get bombed today or not, and
Hmm.
over here we're talking about, should I write a poem or should I, I don't know what to do. Like, it's a mad comparison. But also it's like, I also believe that you can't really compare tragedies, or you can't really, maybe tragedy is not the right word, but you can't really compare um people's, like, hardships. The hardships that a poor person goes through is different from the hardships that a rich person goes through, or the hardships that a person growing up in the UK is different from the hardships for a person growing up in, Australia, or whatever, like. And it seems, when you hear about someone else's hardships, it might seem like, oh, they've got it easy, but it's always, um what's the word, not, it's forgetting the word, but it's, you could only understand your own hardships in context of what you've been through personally. So something that is really, really hard for you might be super easy for somebody else,
Yeah.
but it's still hard for you, you know. Um, so I think I lost my point, but hopefully you got what I was trying to say. Um, there's so many things out there that, money doesn't really, the hardships that money could, the hardships that the lack of money can bring on, um, isn't the only hardships that are out there. And sometimes I think, like, we, especially for those of us who don't, we don't have the rich daddies and that kind of thing, we don't
Yeah.
always recognize that people who will have those positions just go through things that maybe we don't fully understand as to why that's so hard for them, or why they struggle so much, and you look at, some people who've committed, people who committed suicide, or at least some people committed suicide, people who seemingly have it all. They got money, they've got fame, they've got, like, great careers, and
Hmm.
they're relationships, and they're doing well in this, doing well in that, and they're seemingly, as every kind of metric of success that society kind of puts onto us. They seemingly tick all those boxes and then some. So we're looking at them like, wow, they've got everything, but yet it's still miserable, and we don't fully understand why. So yeah, I
Yeah,
do feel like there's the stresses that money just doesn't even come into the equation of. And those stresses aren't just for rich people either. Poor people can go through those stresses too that don't involve
absolutely.
money. um and yeah, it could be just down to things like feeling like you can't be yourself when you need to be yourself, feeling like you've kind of put yourself into a box, whether it's because you made some videos on YouTube and they did well, so now you've just been doing that, and now you feel like you just can't do anything else and you really want to do something else, and it's just kind of screaming at you from the inside, but you like, if you did that, nobody's going to care, because they only just want to see this one thing from you, and that's the stress.
Hmm.
That's the stress. It sounds, to the person who is worried about, I don't know, they're worried about getting bombed, whether they go to on the way to school, and they hear about, oh, are you worried about, a YouTube video? Like, it's that's a nothing to them, but it's still a major stress for the people who go through it. Um, so yeah, comparing things is never going to be a good idea in my opinion, just because of like, it's always relative. That's what I was trying to think of. It's always relative to your own experiences, and you can never really. And yes, we should be mindful that people go through far worse things, and of course we shouldn't. I don't think it's a good idea to over exaggerate or what's the word? No, sorry. I think it's a good idea to keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
As we go through our problems, it's definitely a good idea to keep things in perspective. That the problems that we face are largely due to the fact that we are very privileged in a lot of ways. That's why we have these problems and not those problems. There's still problems, right? And there's still things that are hard for us. But we have to acknowledge that, yeah, these are hard for us because of the privileges that we're afforded. So there is that part of it as well, that we can't just be blowing things out of proportion and act like nothing else matters and this is the worst thing ever, and there's nothing you can do, and nobody, there's this perspective, and I think that is definitely a part of dealing with your issues as well, not ignoring it and not acting like, oh, it doesn't matter because somebody's going through something worse. You still need to acknowledge that it's tough for you, but also perspective. Perspective. you know um but yeah, hopefully I made a point in all that rambling.
No, no, I get where you're coming from, and I mean, let me just be clear too. For me personally, right? Personally, mental health is more important, but I feel like factually, and even saying factually might be the wrong word, but I feel like factually, money is more important. Again, due to the circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Uh, because you could even argue against what I'm saying, that if your mental isn't together, then how can you function properly to earn money? But again, like I look at things from, you know, like when I'm saying this, I'm saying it from a logical standpoint, right? Because so much depends on my finances. So much depends on, how much money I'm bringing in and what I'm doing with that money that I'm bringing in. Because I could get some extra money, but if I bullshit around with it, then it's like I never had it in the first place, really.
mm,
If I'm too focused on, um, oh, I want this new game, or, you know what, I don't feel like cooking this week. Let me just go ahead and order out, blah blah. And now this chunk of money is gone, and I could have used that to pay off some extra bills or whatever, or do some repairs to the house, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Um, and even with that same situation, um, doing some. Hold on, you're not hearing anything in the background, are you?
um no, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, good, because I hear my. Sorry about
No,
that.
it's all right.
But yeah. So uh, if I'm going ahead and doing some repairs and everything, and doing everything that I'm supposed to do, being responsible. Now, you know, not to say that my mental is suffering from that. I'm just saying for the sake of the example, right? um making those, responsible sacrifices.
Mm,
My mental, for the sake of this, this example, will dwindle a little bit.
mm,
Okay, damn, my money keeps going to shit that, I gotta do for this house or bills and all this and that. I gotta pay this, pay that. I don't get to really soak in the money for myself, or even like for your example, I mean, for what you're going through. If you weren't able to, like, say your bills got a little higher, right? So now you have to pay your bills. You can't go on these vacations. You couldn't go like, if you couldn't go on the trip to Saudi, you know.
mm,
So that takes away that mental relief and that experience that you got to have, that, that joy. Um, and it also goes back to, like, I had an argument with my niece a while ago. I think we stopped talking because of it. But she was going taking a lot of trips out the country, and she was telling me about it. And I said, why don't you just save this money? You just spoke about, not having enough money for this and that, and now you got some extra money. You want to go to the to DR yet again when you just came back from Mexico, and she argued back that, what's the point of making money if you can't spend it, you can't enjoy it.
mm.
And I'm
Oh,
just like,
mm, mm,
again, that's that generational gap between me and her, where I'm like thinking responsibly, like, yo, save your money, use it for important shit, and then once in a while you could go ahead and use it for some fun shit.
mm.
But
You know, I think.
anyway,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. No, that's it. That's it.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna say this. I feel like I probably fall somewhere in between you and your niece, because I 100% agree with, yeah, what's the point of money if you can't have fun with it? But then I also agree with, yeah, you need to save your money in case something bad happens and you not need for something else.
Yeah.
I literally 100% agree with both. So and perhaps it's part of the problem and part of the reason why I'm kind of feeling the way I'm feeling, because it's like, imagine like I never bought a video game, or I never bought a DVD or a movie or whatever, and I just saved all that money into that. How much money would I have? I have no idea, but it'd be in the thousands easily,
Hmm.
thousands of pounds over the years I would have spent on movies, video games, or related items, right? But then it's like, then I wouldn't have those experiences either. I wouldn't have played those games. I wouldn't have had watched those movies. Had these amazing experiences with some of these movies. But then,
Yeah.
to your point about like, about the financial being more important than mental health, and in terms of factually, I think a lot you mean in terms of like societally,
Yeah.
you need money when it comes down to it. Like, bottom line is, you need money in to live in the society. That's the reality of it, right? So yeah, our mental health is important, and I think, like you said before, like, to you, your mental health is important. To me, my mental health is more important. But to the society as a whole, you can't pay your bills with happiness. Like, you know what I mean. You can't go to the gas man and be like, I'm happy. He's like, good for you, but where's my money? Like, where's my money? Like, so like, yeah, there is that sort of thing. Like, where do you and this is going to be different for everybody, of course, and there's no one right answer, but there is also going to be that thing about, where do you draw that balance of, okay, I'm going to spend this much on fun activities and just things for myself, and this much I'm going to put away, for savings of the future and other things that might need later on. Where do you draw that line? And you know I feel like I know in my youth I've been terrible with money. I know that. I feel like I've been more responsible with money in the last 5 to 10 years, give or take, approximately. I've been much more responsible with money in that time. But even then, where it's like, when I look at my finances, like, okay, I'm budgeting myself. Okay, this is how much I've got this month. This is what I need to put away so I can pay my taxes later. This is what I need to put over here so I can pay my bills, and this one I need to put over there so I can, eat, and this one I need to, you do all this budgeting, right? And I know that you're
Yeah.
trying to have some stuff where, okay, this is what I'm going to put away for this, what I'm going to put away for that, and at times, like, the money that I'm putting away for just myself can be like small, you know. And I'm like, that's fine, because it accumulates. I put it here now. Next month I'll put a little bit more. Next month I'll put a little bit more. And that's kind of the plan, right? to just kind of
Hmm.
do these things. But each month it's like, man, it feels like a drag. And it was always
Absolutely.
feeling like, why am I doing this to myself? I can just take money out of this thing that I have. This is there. I have that. It's there. I can take it out of this pot, but that pot's for something else. I've got to be a responsible adult, so
Hmm.
I just can't just take money out of that pot because that pot is for the important things. But then gaming is important for me. Gaming is important to me. But yeah, man, it's a constant, like I say, it's a constant shift in balance of trying to figure out how you do these things and how you make time for these things and how you even spend money on these things. Of course, it's not just about money; it's time as well. It's all kinds of different commitments because everything costs you something. It's either going to cost you money, time, or in most cases both, right? So everything
Yeah.
costs you something. Ain't nothing free in this world. So if you spend more time on this, you got less time for that. You spend more money on this, you got less money for that, and it's constantly. I personally find anyways, it's constantly a shifting balance of where do I fall in? Where do I fall in? And it's so difficult to be like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm sticking to. It's just like, nah, I might need to be over here this time. No, I need to be over here. No, I need to be over there. And it's like, where does it, you know? Because it's always that one thing you're missing out on. And I guess human nature is we kind of dwell on the thing that we don't have more than the things that we do have. And perhaps that's
Yes.
part of where I need to kind of remember as well that I do okay when we're in the grand scheme of things. Like it's not like I never get to play video games. It's not like I never get to, what I mean. It's not like that. And perhaps part of dealing with this is just recognizing more that I do still get to do things that I want to do. Maybe not in the way that I want to do them, or maybe not always as much as I want to do them, but I do still get to do the things that I want to do. And perhaps that's the thing that I need to focus on. That that gratitude. Of being able to do these things because, well, like we said before, perspective. Many people don't get to do these things, and the problems we have compared to the problems other people have. Perspective, and perhaps that's what I'm forgetting myself is you know there is that gratitude of that I can do this, that I can just be like, what, after this podcast, let me just throw in some Half-Life or whatever. Like, I can do that, you know
Yeah.
but of course if I did that, that's less time. It keeps going. But yeah, I mean, as I was talking, I just feel like maybe that perspective of what's the word? Sorry, I just lost the word again. Gratitude, and recognizing that, yeah, it's maybe not as bad as our minds maybe make it out to be in our heads, and perhaps so sometimes we can be our own worst enemies in terms of making things seem worse than they actually are. You know,
Yeah.
um, so perhaps that's part of it as well.
No, I agree because uh, you know, again, once you're in that position, like once you're sitting back and you're stuck in your head, it's hard to think of it outside the box. Like right now, one of my friends that I've been friends with him since we were teenagers, since I was like 15, 16 years old. And occasionally we'll have arguments and we'll stop talking for a while. Sometimes it's months at a time or even longer. Right now, we're not talking, and I don't even know why he got mad, but it doesn't really matter. However, it could be because he was in it. I'm not going to tell his business or whatever, so I'm going to be very vague. Um, he got in a very tough spot and had to relocate. Um, so now he's basically renting, right? But he was renting before. Uh, is his name on it? Not exactly, right? But renting is renting, right? Even if you buy a house, sometimes it's not even your house until you pay it off. People buy it with a mortgage usually.
Yeah,
Normal, the average person, I should say, they don't buy houses outright. You set up a mortgage.
yeah,
So I tried breaking it down to him like that, but it's I think some people just don't want to um break out of that circle. He had in his mind that, oh, because I don't own this, I'm homeless. And you know, this person could choose to evict me at any time, et cetera, et cetera. All these things kept bringing himself down.
Hmm.
And my argument again was, even if you had your own apartment from a landlord, that's pretty much the situation you're in now. They could do the same thing. Like everything that this person can do to you, that this other person can do to you, because there's legal situations, I mean legal steps that you have to take in order to go ahead and go about this.
Hmm.
um and you need to go ahead and handle it accordingly, but it's a whole bunch of things that I feel like I'm talking to a wall when I talk to them. um and to bring it back to where this all started, to the point, once somebody's stuck in that circle, they don't want to hear anything else sometimes, because their mind has already worked to make this make sense. Everything that they're saying, they're not just coming out the ass with it. They've already sat there and thought about it. And now it makes so much sense that anything else said does not make sense. And that's why they get even more frustrated, because they're like, I already thought about this, I already figured it out. I know what the hell
Hmm.
I'm talking about. You don't know what you're talking about.
Hmm.
So, you get stuck in your own ways.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I see what you mean. Like in terms of just like we can be too much in our own heads at times,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, we need to kind of come out of that, get the to kind of take a step back and come out of that. But of course, when you're in that space, you don't realize you're in that space, and that's the thing when you're too close to it. But yeah, and I think I know what you mean. Like, yeah, we can definitely get in our own heads about certain things and make a small problem into a big problem, or a zero problem into a problem, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to comment too much on your friend because I don't know nothing about the laws over there, but I'd imagine before you kick someone out, you can't just kick someone out. You're probably going to give warnings first, right, or something like that. So
Exactly.
I mean, pay your bills and you should be fine. So,
Yeah.
pay your rent on time and you don't have to worry about it. So, if you're not paying your
Exactly.
rent on time, then yeah, maybe you've got kind of problems. But as long as you're paying your rent on time, then there's no reason for them to kick you out. So
Yeah.
just do that. Just get yourself a job. Get yourself a job. Um,
Jesus.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've been in that situation. I guess I've been pretty fortunate with the landlords that I've had in the past where they've been pretty cool about certain things. Like I've mostly paid my rents on time anyway, and maybe a couple of times where I was like, okay, it's gonna be a couple of days late, and they were like, all right, no worries. So I guess I've never really had that problem, but yeah, I imagine for people who yeah, we talked about, some people out there just kind of go from paycheck to paycheck, and it could get tough when you're not making the money that you should be making or you need to be making, and now you go right about how
Yeah.
you going to pay this, how you going to pay that, I don't know if that's your friend or not, but I'm just saying there are people like that out there. Um, it's like, yeah, so yeah, that's a whole worry that fortunately, like, I haven't had to deal with it in that way. So yeah. It sucks for people who do, man. That's all I can say. It sucks for people who do, because
Yeah.
like when you think about it, nobody should. If you have a full-time job, you should be able to pay your bills, like your rent or your mortgage or whatever. Like you shouldn't be worried about paying those if you work full time. That's how it should be. But I
Yep.
think the reality is that there's plenty of full-time jobs out there that just don't pay enough
Enough.
to
Yeah.
pay the bills of the city that you live in. you know. And I know for
Hmm.
London, you talk about New York being an expensive city. I know London's an expensive city, and there's plenty of people who work in London but can't afford to live in London. And that's mad when you think about it.
Yeah.
That is actually mad. Like I remember I knew a teacher one time who would commute from, like, was it Southampton or something like that, to work in London. She would get on a train. And Southampton, by the way, it's about 60 miles south of London. It's by the coast. So London, real quick for the geography, is like sort of near the south of England, and then down by the coast. to the real south of England by the coast is where Southampton is, about 60 miles apart. So I mean, to get a train, it's not too bad because it's like, I think it's like one train that goes from Southampton to London and back, and then takes like an hour or something like that. So it's not too bad in terms of time, but it's just the fact that it's cheaper to do that than just live where you work. It's crazy. It's actually mad, but yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it blows my mind anytime I run into somebody that has to go ahead and do that commute. I'm like, how can you fucking take a railroad train to work every day? Like, I could never. I mean, if I had to, I got no choice. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm avoiding that shit as much as possible.
But I guess it's kind of similar to what you said before about, the financial being more important than mental health, at least society speaking.
Exactly.
Because like, if you could have a house in London, for example, but if your finances just don't cover that house, you're going to struggle hard, right?
Yep.
So you can either choose to have that struggle, or you could choose a struggle of having a house 60 miles out of London, but then you're going to get an hour on a train every day. And maybe an hour's not so bad, but, let's say you miss a train and, your next one's not for like 30 or 40 minutes. So you're maybe constantly running for the train all the time to catch the right train on time and, things like that. So like you can either
Mhm.
have that struggle or the other struggle. That you choose your struggle in the end. Like you choose your struggle. And I guess part of choosing your struggle is knowing that you chose that struggle. I mean, part of dealing with it, rather, is knowing that you chose that struggle. So it's not to say that that makes it okay because you chose it, but it also is like you chose it because you felt that that was your best choice. Ultimately, you have to kind of go with what you feel your best choice is, right?
Yeah.
And no matter what the best choice is, there's going to be some level of struggling in there. So if you chose that, it's going to be the parts of it that suck, but I guess the comfort comes from knowing that that's what you chose, and it's like, okay, I've got this struggle, but it could have been worse because I could have had the other struggle where I'm not paying this and I can't afford that, and then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So it's like you're always struggling. You're always struggling with something, and
Yeah.
and I guess to bring it back to our topic a little bit is like about finding time and balance and things like that. It's there. You choose your struggle, and it just sucks when because I guess I was saying before, like we kind of naturally focus on the things that don't go so well. But yeah, remember, it's a struggle that you chose, and the other struggle probably would have been a lot worse. So yeah, maybe take comfort in that. That you at least chose the lesser of two struggles.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, anyway. We don't always make the right choice, so there is that. There is that.
Yeah. But we try.
Yeah, indeed. I guess all you can do is try and keep trying and try to learn from your mistakes as well, and try to figure out how things are and where things go, and what you can change or what needs to change, or and yeah, maybe sometimes something does need to go. I think that's another reality that we might need to face when you're kind of working or you got responsibilities and you're still trying to be a geek as well. Like, I mean, sometimes things have to go, and not necessarily that you have to give up being give up your movies, give up your games, and sell all your toys and sell all your comics. I don't necessarily mean that, but how we deal with things, and I guess it's trying to figure out the real important fundamental of what is it that you actually like. you know
Yeah.
what is the fundamental thing that brings you joy, that you really want to hold on to, because that thing you may be able to find in other places, and that fit more in with your lifestyle. That thing you may be able to find if you in by not necessarily in mess up my words a bit, but that thing that really you need to hold on to might not strictly speaking be what you're trying to do, but it might be maybe a version of what you're trying to do that again fits in more of your lifestyle. So I don't think people need to just give up their hobbies or give up whatever. But it could be just a case of really trying to figure out what is it that you actually really want out of that, and trying to figure out that key thing, and maybe figuring out how else can you achieve that, but in a way that fits in more of what you else you need to be doing, that still allows you to get your bills paid and do what you, all the other stuff that you need to do, take care of this, take care of that, take care of this, take care of that, and
Mhm.
still manage to keep that in your life where you can still be yourself and still do that thing that you enjoy, that brings you happiness, so you not just a machine to the corporate world of working all the time. So but that's a whole other thing as well, a whole thing in itself, just trying to figure that, because that's going to be different for everybody. That key thing that you need to find and balance that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what though, I do feel like talking about this has kind of helped me. Like, it wasn't the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, but I feel like it has helped. Talking about this, like it feels like the way. I mean, of course, I don't know until I start putting things into practice, right? um, but at the moment, I would say it feels like I feel better now that I've talked about some of the things I've been going through over the past, I guess, many years, but certainly more so in the last few months. In
Yeah.
terms of, okay, like, how do I keep doing these? And I want to keep doing this, but I got to do this, and then I want to do these other things as well. I want to have these other experiences, but I got to do this. That means there's time for that, and I guess that's kind of been my mind over the last few months, and certainly in more recent times, and for a while. But I feel talking about it today is definitely kind of helped me have a bit of a shift in perspective. So yeah, appreciate you chatting with me, man. Like, I don't
No,
I know it
no
wasn't the
problem at
intention, but it's been like a therapy session for me. So
all.
it really has been. It's been like a therapy session for me. I kind of get it off my chest, and also just kind of, I guess, it allowed me to kind of process some things and figure stuff out, and maybe remember some things that I guess I knew but maybe forgotten. And now I'm like, oh, you know what? I feel okay now. I feel okay
Yeah.
now.
Nah, it's no problem at all. I
Mm,
already know. So sometimes I gotta go ahead and take a moment and really sit and think, and just sit back and analyze shit for a bit.
mm,
Bring things into perspective and be like, all right, center myself.
mm. Yeah, indeed, indeed. I guess speaking aloud and putting things out there is a way of just like processing what's going on internally. And I think sometimes, especially, like, I wouldn't say my job is solitary. There are people around, but just due to kind of I'm not necessarily seeing the same people all the time. So I do talk to people during the day, but it's not necessarily like regular conversations with, like, the same people. So there's limited conversations you have when you're seeing different people pretty much most of the time. And that's not a bad thing, because of course it means you get to meet different people and you get to learn about different people's stories, and you get to maybe try to understand different people's perspective. But it does mean that you're never really having any kind of like real relationships in terms of, like, you know meeting and stuff like that. And that could be, so that in that respect, it could feel somewhat solitary, right, what I do. um but I feel like, and again, because like I say, I will always appreciate you coming through, because that's one of the reasons for that. Because when I'm speaking to somebody who I've spoken to before, and you can kind of build on that, I feel like of course you get to know each other over a period of time, and you get to learn things about each other over the period of time. And I think, like, having that um is a cool thing. I feel I just made myself sound like a lonely git, but I do have people in my life. I do have people. I just kind of realized the way I'm talking. I probably made myself sound like a complete lonely git, but I do have some people in my life. So it's not. I'm not that lonely, not yet anyway.
No, I really get what you mean.
But yeah, just in terms of, like, because you spend a lot of time at your job, and then that's kind of like a big part of your day, and you're pretty much, like I said, I'm not on my own throughout the day, but you're seeing different people at all the time. So I'm not really building relationships with most people, and so that can feel solitary, somewhat solitary a little bit. But yeah, so having people in your life that you can converse with on a regular basis is a big help, you know. And I guess for people who don't have that, because there are people out there who, you know, don't have people in their lives, and that of course is going to be another struggle as well. I mean, some people apparently like it. I mean, each their own. I'm not here to judge nobody, but some people that apparently like being on their own. I kind of, I mean, I think it's important to have alone time. Of course, I think it's important to spend time on your own and be in your own thoughts and kind of spend time away from people. And like traveling alone, by the way, I think is a great thing to do for yourself. But in terms of just like living your life like as devoid of human contact as possible, like some people seem to prefer, that I kind of struggle with the idea of doing. Like again, each to their own, each to their own. I'm just saying, like for me, I feel like I don't think I'd ever want to do that. I don't think I'd ever want to live a life where I just have nobody else in my life. You know what I mean? I feel like that would be, because I feel like part of the human experience is being around other humans, you know, and I mean, there's like 8 billion people in the world, so no matter how much you try to be alone, you're always going to have somebody in your life, right? It's just not
Yeah.
possible. You're always got
Yeah.
somebody. But I guess what I'm saying is that there's people who just like they don't have no friends, they don't talk to their family, they have as little human contact as possible, and they're apparently happy doing that. And if you are happy doing that, then hey, again, each their own. But I'm just saying, like for me, I feel like that that I struggle with that. Like I feel like having people that you can talk to on a regular basis, even if you don't necessarily see them all the time. Like I have friends that I might see once every few months or maybe every few years, but they're still friends. And you know, when we catch up, it's like there's no time has passed at all. You know, like you just pick up where you left off, and it's all good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I feel like having people in your life is just a big part of being human. You know, and just being in this world and enjoying or trying to enjoy, like even playing video games. Like I mean, I mostly play solo games, like single player games. Um, but even that is like one of the things I miss sometimes is like, you know, when you're in school and you watch a TV show or you're playing a game or whatever it is, and you go to school the next day, you got somebody to talk about it with. You know, that I don't have so much in my life no more. I think I don't even think, I know I definitely miss that. I know I definitely miss that, you know, like that whole thing of like, oh, do you see this? Or would you play that? Or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with the multiplayer games, I don't jump on those too much. But you know, when you do, it's like, you know, you communicating with people and you know, you're talking and you're conversing and you know, and people who play more multiplayer games but have those communications and relationships that they build over that. So for me, I just feel like communication and how we communicate is going to evolve and change over the years, whether it's, you know, face to face or whether it's, you know, through Google Meets like we're doing, or whether it's through a video game or whether it's through, you know, Twitter or whatever. The communication method is going to change, but I feel like we as humans do need to communicate, and we do need to. That's how I feel anyway. Clearly, other people feel differently, but I
Hmm.
do feel like communication and having people you can communicate with and talk with and converse with and build relationships with through any kind of means is an important part of the human experience. And
Yeah.
certainly, I feel like, you know, for today, you know, like it's helped me kind of like process some things in my head about, you know, life and things I'm doing and things I want to do and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. People who don't have that and actively avoid that, I mean, I but that sounds like a whole kind of struggle that I'm not sure I even want to understand. You know?
I mean, I get it to a certain extent. I've had like mostly I don't really talk to too many people. Um
No, I definitely appreciate you coming on these podcasts too. One of the few. I'm one of the few. That's awesome.
because I can't speak for everyone, right?
Hmm.
But for me, it was because I've had a lot of situations where people just, you know, and I'm not blaming people, you know, it could be any number of reasons. Sometimes, you know, it's a you problem, right?
Mm, yeah. If
Um
everywhere you go stinks, perhaps you need to take a bath.
exactly. So it's like from my experience, um there were too many people where I just get into a disagreement with or an argument with, or um they, I feel slighted by them in some sort of way, you know, uh, any number of reasons it just didn't work out, right?
mm,
So I got tired of it. I got tired of it, and again, I'm not blaming them specifically because there's some situations, of course, all right, nah, that's you. Fuck that. But sometimes I had to take responsibility and realize, I mean, accountability and realize, yeah, that was on me. You know,
yeah.
I could have handled that better, or I should have done this, or I should have done that, whatever the case may be. So I just found it easier to minimize my circle,
Mm,
not talk to too many people. This way I could focus on the people that I do talk to and make the best out of that situation and value
mm.
it as much as I can.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said about not necessarily having loads of friends, but just having the right friends, you
Yeah.
know. And and I think especially like as we get older, like that's maybe it's a thing that kind of happens somewhat naturally anyway. Like you tend to gravitate more towards the people that you just kind of click with, and the people that kind of have your back and you've got their back, and the people that you care about and care about you. You kind of gravitate more towards that anyway. At least that's how I feel about it. Like I feel like in my experience, I tend to just kind of naturally gravitate to more towards people that I feel I. I'm not I'm not wondering if they really care about me. You know what I mean? I know they do, and I know I care about them. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like I feel like I'm around that more. And not to say that all the other people aren't in your life in some capacity. They're around, and I'm not going to be rude to them. Say hello, whatever. How you doing? Congratulations, blah blah blah. It's fine. It is what it
Yeah.
is. But at the same time, I'm not putting myself or trying to put myself in their spaces either. You know what I mean? Like when those things come up about you know, somebody's doing something at some place, I'm like, all right, cool, good for you. I ain't gonna be there. I ain't gonna be there. But somebody else is like hits you up and it's like, hey, you free? And it's like, yeah, cool, let's go. You know what I mean? It's like it's because you know what I mean. I got their back, they got my back, and it's like that. So I feel like yeah, at least in my experience, and I feel like you kind of sort of naturally gravitate, or just I guess it's somebody described this as what did they say? It was like when you're young. I might mess up how the quote goes, by the way, but I'm sort of paraphrase a little bit. But they basically described it as like when you're young, when you're really young, you've got plenty of fucks to give, right? So
Yeah.
you could go there because you could give a fuck about everything. You could do everything. But as you get older, you got less and less fucks to give.
Yep.
You got less and less and less. So you stop going to some of these places. I don't give a fuck about that. I don't really hang around these places. I don't give a fuck about that. But the few that those are real ones. Those the real ones. And I really like that kind of explanation. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I like that. I feel like that's I don't know, maybe that's not it, but certainly I feel like that's a big part of it. Like just that when you're young, you're figuring stuff out, you go in there, blah blah blah, go to this place, da da da. You get a bit older, and it's like, you know what? I don't really care about that. You know what? I know they don't really care about me. You know what? Yeah, I can miss that out. Da, da, da. You know what?
Yeah.
But these guys right here. Maybe I don't see them all the time. Maybe I don't see them as much as I'd like to, and we're not in each other's like circles as much as we used to be. But you know what? I know when that call comes, they got my back. You know what I mean? And or if that comes my way, I got their back. You know what I mean? And it's like that. Like so, like those guys, the real ones. Was it? I don't know if is it this what people do? Wait, I don't even
Yeah.
know. But
No, that
that
is.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
yeah, with that, whatever it is, that's the one. And again, I guess kind of bringing it back to the topic a little bit as well. That kind of fits in as a way of dealing with just anything really. Like you have to figure out the things you really care about and the things you don't really care about, and the things that are truly important to you and the things that maybe you just think are important. And because we all, I guess, in the geek world, especially, like we all have that kind of fear of missing out, right? Because especially there's so many games coming out and so many movies coming out, and they all look great and they all look fantastic, and everybody's talking about them and they're talking about how amazing this is, and you're just kind of there like, oh man, I ain't got time for that, and or maybe I should get this, or because you're trying to be in these spaces so you can talk about it, and it gets much. We all have that kind of fear of missing out, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, maybe you need to miss out on certain things.
Yeah.
Maybe just need to miss out on certain things. And yeah, there could be great experiences and it could be amazing games or amazing movies or amazing this and amazing that and mind blowing, life changing. There could be all of that, right? But you know what? At the same time, you don't necessarily need to experience absolutely every single thing. And
Exactly.
sometimes you just need to be like, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I can just do what I can do, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. And as long as you at least having at least a few great experiences, then you're doing better than most. If you have at least one or two great experiences, you're doing better than most. So yeah, stay grateful. But yeah, man. Yeah, man. A friend of mine actually, one of my best friends actually said this to me years ago. He said, true friends can grow separately without growing apart. And that's something that's always stuck with me because like him and myself, like we don't see each other all the time, but when we do, it's like I say, it's like it's not an issue. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
we're just talking. We're like, oh, what's up, da da da, and da da da, and it's just smooth, And I feel like you don't meet many people like that, and you can know a lot of people. Like when you're young, you think you got loads of friends when you're a kid. You got loads of friends when you're a kid. You don't. You got a few friends. You just think you got a lot of friends. When you're older, you realize your actual friends is like this. Your acquaintances could be like this, right? But your actual friends, and you're okay. I think when you get older, you kind of get more and more okay with that fact that your actual friends is there, and everybody else, I'm happy for them, do your thing, blah blah blah, congratulations, good luck, blah blah blah, all that. I'm not mad at you, but when it comes to your actual friends, your people who you really you're down for, that's that, not this, that's a delusion, you know what I mean? That's a delusion. This is where you are, and that's okay. And that's okay, you know. In fact, another thing comes to mind as well. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but my bad. But another thing comes to mind. There's a guy called Simon Sinek. He's I think he's like a business motivational coach. I don't really know what he does, but I just heard him speaking once. Um, and well, I've heard him speak a few times, but it's one particular time where he said, "You will always deserve a styrofoam cup," and this is something that stuck with me as well. Where he said, when you when you're like the head of the company or whatever, right? People might invite you out to do a speech, and they'll pay for your flight, and they'll pay for your cab to the hotel, and they'll pay for your hotel, and they'll pay for your cab from the hotel to the event. And when you get to the event, they'll greet you, and maybe you ask for a cup of coffee, and they'll give you a cup of coffee, and it's really beautiful, cup or whatever, and if you're deluding yourself, you'll start to believe that you deserve that beautiful cup, right? But the thing is, like, when you're not the head of the company, or when you're not in that big position, you don't get invited to the event, so you gotta pay for your own flight, you gotta pay for your own cabs, you gotta pay for your own hotel, and when you get to the event, you ask for a cup of coffee, someone's like, yeah, just the machine's over there, and you just have a styrofoam cup. And he said, you
Hmm.
always deserve the styrofoam cup, because the big, beautiful cup, that's not for you. That's for the position that you hold. You will always deserve the styrofoam cup. And when he said that, I just felt like I get it. I get it, because I've had kind of similar experiences where you've been in positions with jobs and everybody kind of wants to shake your hand and talk to you, but when you're not in that position, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. So yeah, if you could delude yourself into thinking these are your friend circle, the reality is this is your friend circle. and it's not even a circle in most cases. It might be just a line. It's a line. It's not even a circle. It's a line. It's there. This is the delusion. This is where you are. You'll always deserve the styrofoam cup. That he said that stuck with me, and so yeah, and I think that fits into a lot what we're talking about as well. Just like knowing where you are and being okay with that, because that's where you are, and everything else is not really for you. It's for something that you did, or a job that you had, or a position that you hold, or what I mean, some kind of status that people apply to you, but you are here, and you'd always be there. And yeah, it's so important to remember that. Otherwise, you're just deluding yourself. And when you delude yourself, and we all do it, by the way. I know I'm guilty doing this as well. Even though I've heard all this and I'm speaking it now, I have to remind myself now, because we all delude ourselves. We delude ourselves, and then we start having problems. We start worrying about this and worrying about that, or how am I going to do this, and how am I going to hold. It's like, you know what? I'm actually here. I need to be okay with being there.
Yeah.
Because this is a good place to be.
Yeah.
That's a delusion. But yeah, it's my little ramble. My little ramble.
Nah, but I agree with it because I mean, obviously, I agree with it. At the end of the day, I just found out it is not worth it. It's not worth you know, you gotta go with what makes you the most comfortable and what you feel is best for you. And that's it. You don't need to go ahead and live up to a certain standard or have a set your requirements to somebody else's requirements. Some people need a lot more people, some other people don't. Do what works for you.
Indeed. And yeah, figure out that thing, and that's not always going to be an easy thing to do, to be fair, but yeah, you do need to figure that out, that thing that works for you. And also, I feel like being malleable as well, in the sense that it might work one time, it's not always going to work another time, and you need to be ready for certain shifts. But I mean, that's of course depending on everybody's individual circumstances and things like how your life is, and blah, things change, and who's in your life and what you need to do, and but yeah, I feel like there can be that malleability to it as well, where just because something works a few times doesn't mean it's always going to work every single time, and you're gonna have to adapt. You might have to adapt, I should say, from time to time, where it's like, okay, this was working, but now I need to figure out something, and that's all part of the journey as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like I mean, I feel like we've said a lot, and I certainly feel like I've said what I wanted to say. Or how do you feel? Do you feel like there's anything more to add, or do you reckon this is a good place to wind down?
Now I feel like we touched on every base and even more.
Awesome. But yeah, it was. I mean, I know I said it before, but it's maybe worth saying again. I really do feel like this conversation has helped me, and it wasn't my intention in terms of when I suggested this topic to you. I was just thinking in fact, literally, like I said before, like I just thought, it's been on my mind a little bit, and because I just got back from Saudi, this be a good one to talk to, because it won't involve as much preparation. Yeah, that's actually the reason. It really was. I just thought it's not going to be much preparation because it's been on my mind for a while, so I think I'll be okay to talk about stuff like this as the first one back. But as I've been talking about it, yeah, honestly, I feel like it's helped me a lot. So yeah, appreciate you agreeing to chat with me about this.
Of course, man.
And hopefully it could go from feeling like it's helped to actually helping, but that's the next step now. But yeah, I guess the reality is that when you're not even just for geeks, I'm sure, but for anybody, whether it's a hobby that you have or something that you like to do, but you also got to work, or you got this to take care of, and you got that to do, and you got these things you're trying to achieve, and you got these things that you want to do in your life, and there's always going to be that issue or that kind of struggle of how do you fit it all in, and especially when you're not, if you're a creative person but you're not making money from your creativity, that's always going to be a struggle as well, because like I said before, I don't want to be that guy who only does things for the money, because that's just not who I am. But at the same time, there's only so much time you can devote to something if it's not making money, so that's a thing to figure out. So there's always going to be these kind of struggles of how you balance it and how you fit it all in your life, and how you fit it in might not necessarily might be different to the way you want to fit it in, but that's all kind of part of the struggle and the balancing act, and figuring things out and stuff like that. But it's an ever, like I said before, it's like an ever shifting balance a lot of the time. But it's something that we all got to do in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But yeah, for anybody out there who's going through or has similar kind of experiences, let me know in the comments. Send a tweet at uncivilisedArt over on Twitter. And uncivilized is spelled with an S, by the way, because Sweet Bundy might be American. I'm not, so I spell it properly. Okay, I spell it correctly with an S, not a Z. Okay. But yeah, uncivilized art over on Twitter and Insta and other spots as well. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for now. So guys, thank you for watching and or listening. Any suggestions, drop in the comments as well. But yeah, it's going to be all for now. So Sweet Bundy, once again, thank you very much for joining me, and appreciate everybody checking this podcast out. And until whenever, if ever, peace.